Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
When shopping for your family's meals, do you know where you can find Alaska-grown products? Everywhere. They're available at your local grocery stores and farmers markets across the state. Alaska-grown products are fresher and more nutritious, and buying local helps grow our economy. So just look for the Alaska-grown label when you shop, or ask your grocer where the Alaska-grown products are. Remember, Alaska-grown. It's closer, fresher, better.
And it's all Alaska-grown.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. Times, again, in order of appearance, if you're not watching right now, 5:30 on ARCS, APB, and KUAC in an hour at 6:30 p.m., and 360 North, 7:30, and then 5 a.m. tomorrow morning for Alaska Public Media. Moving on to the warning chart here. There are warnings, still a winter storm warning out here tonight and into tomorrow for the Brooks Range. Looking for several more inches of snow. Actually 4 to 7 inches in the forecast for tonight there, above 2,500 feet in that area. And then it looks like another 2 to 4 inches falling Tuesday and Tuesday night, or actually at 4 to 7, and that's through tomorrow afternoon. And then looking for another 2 to 4 inches to fall tomorrow night into early Wednesday. And again, that all above about 2,500 feet. And looking at the satellite imagery today, pretty wound up storm here right along the Yukon Delta coast there, kind of pulling in along the across southern Norton Sound today. A strong trough right through here, bringing moderate amounts of showers and some areas of heavy rain, with showers extending on down the Alaska Peninsula there, having already moved across Bristol Bay. And then the much heavier rainfall occurring with this band of moisture here, streaming northward from off the map. 3 to 5 inches of rain falling over Prince William Sound, southern Kenai Peninsula coast overnight last night. And that shifted eastward today, and Yakutat, since midnight, picked up 3.5 inches of rain. So they're right under the heavy rain there, and rain sliding into the northern southeast coast today. Dry, though, on down to the south with a little less cloudiness, and some pretty gusty winds as well. Again, the 60 to 80 plus mile per hour gusts through channeled areas of south central Alaska. Pretty windy Copper River Basin, and then those 70 mile an hour gusts diminishing all throughout the afternoon today as that front pushes eastward. Lots of clouds, areas of rain up to the north, but again, more showery drying out back to the west. And farther out to the west, another front here with some gusty winds, gale force winds, pushing eastward, gusts of 50 miles per hour along with rain. And on the chart, there's the eastward extent, just getting into the AKwx area there, those gusty winds. Front now just passing northwest or northeast of Chimay-Attu. High pressure, lighter winds here, eastern Bering Sea, of course, Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians. Here's that low center up there, and pretty gusty winds, east winds on the eastern Arctic coast there, anywhere from 25 to 40 miles per hour, blowing around and then becoming northeast there. 50 mile an hour wind gusts reported at Point Hope today, and then those wrapping right back in around that low center. And Cape Romanzoff had gusts to 56 miles per hour, so pretty windy conditions here on the backside of this low center. There's a trough right through there, bringing 2/3 or a third to or a quarter to 2/3 of an inch of rain here. Moderate rain occurring at McGrath this afternoon, and flat in McGrath, and then more showery conditions here. These rolling through pretty rapidly from southwest to northeast. A few isolated thunderstorms embedded in here as well, all the way over to the eastern Arctic coast. But really kind of hit and miss on the showers. but the heavier rainfall there edging its way eastward ahead of the front. And again, the wind's diminishing here as the front pushes eastward. Had some rain get up into the Tanana Valley today, and then the rain and snow here, depending upon your elevation, across the Brooks Range, but not quite reaching the Arctic coast. And for tonight, that front continues a slow eastward push here into the Panhandle. So look for occasionally heavy rain into the northern southeast coast. Less of that down south, and then more showers here from the North Gulf Coast. Winds continue to diminish south central Alaska, right up into the interior there, looks like becoming light and variable, and then still got a good gradient here across the north slope, but winds also diminishing here from the Chukchi Sea back in, and especially along the Yukon Delta coast. That higher pressure now coming inland, a couple of troughs swinging westward with some showers. So mostly cloudy, kind of drying out here over Cook Inlet as this one trough pushes eastward, another one coming up to the western Alaska Range. So a little more numerous and continuous rainfall here from the northern Kuskokwim Valley back up towards Selawik, and then eastward across the northern Koyukuk Valley. And this system bringing gale force winds into the central Aleutians, rain possibly heavy at times, low clouds, fog along with that. IFR, of course, out in this area all the way back out to the west, though, but less of that. Pretty good conditions there for the Alaska Peninsula. And back up along the southwest coast, again, diminishing winds and showers ending. Then a break for tomorrow, becoming mostly sunny here across south central Alaska from the Susitna Valley southward across Kodiak Island. Bristol Bay looking really good there. This system pulling up to the northeast now right over the Kobuk Valley. So periods of rain there. Eastward along that trough into the central Tanana Valley, more showery through here from the 40 Mile Country southward across the Copper River Basin and on into the northern Panhandle. This front weakening now, so it looks like just a band of rain into the southern southeast coast throughout the day tomorrow. And then still rain and snow depending on your elevation there for the Brooks Range, but the Arctic coast remaining dry, and those winds really lightening up now on the east side there, and really all through this area. Look for lighter wind conditions tomorrow, but winds again, eastern Aleutians, rain starting to spread in toward the Alaska Peninsula, some light rain at times, say Falls Pass, maybe Cold Bay, definitely winds possibly gusting 30 to 40 miles an hour by tomorrow afternoon at Cold Bay. Look for the winds to also increase across the Pribilof Islands. Then for Wednesday, that low center stays back out over the central Aleutians there, so a broad southwest flow here pushes the front right up into northern Bristol Bay after crossing the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow night. And into the afternoon, looks like rain spreading northward back into south central Alaska and eastward along the North Gulf Coast. Not nearly as heavy as the last storm that came through. That front still hung up here along the southern Panhandle, so a couple of days of clouds and rain down there, kind of a wave in this area. Probably will push off toward the Queen Charlotte's Wednesday night and into Thursday. Now we got a break here over the central interior, some leftover moisture for the Koyukuk Valley, northward there, north of that trough axis, falling in the form of snow for the Brooks Range, and some of that might slip on up in toward the Kaktovik and Border Island areas. Then another trough dropping down from the Arctic there from the northwest could bring a little bit of light snow and fog from Barrow maybe to Point Lay late in the afternoon on Wednesday. Strong northeast winds here, offshore flow should be hopefully VFR, St. Lawrence Island, some sunshine right up in toward the Noatak Valley areas and over to Kotzebue. And then lots of showers here, central Bering Sea, actually areas of rain, but the winds not all that bad through this area. It looks like the strongest gradient will be either to the south or back up to the north. Temperatures this afternoon across the southeast coast, mid-50s to lower 60s. Kawak at 63 degrees, 55 Wrangell, same thing at Sitka. Yakutat pushed up to 56, and Juneau 56, Yakutat 57, and lower to mid-50s Prince William Sound. Anchorage, Merrifield hit 70 degrees today, as well as some other locations throughout the midtown of Anchorage during the afternoon with those downsloping winds. Cooler 50s with rain up into the Susitna Valley, 52 McCarthy, but up to 65 at Tok. Fairbanks 54, 53 in Tanana, mid-40s both at Bettles, Fort Yukon, 28 and snow in Anatuvik, and lower to mid-30s here for the North Slope and the Arctic coast. Back into the 40s there across Kotzebue Sound. lower 50s, Nome and Koyuk, as well as Unalakleet. Kaltag was up to 55, upper 40s here, the lower Yukon River on out across the Delta, and right around 50 for the Kuskokwim Delta. Mid 40s for the Bering Strait, lower 50s the Pribilofs, 50s for the Aleutians and the Alaska Peninsula, but Sandpoint did push up to 61. And for the lows tonight, 40s there, Bristol Bay, all the way out across the Aleutians to near 50. 40s to maybe lower 50s here, southern Alaska, 20s and 30s for the Brooks Range on out to the coast, and mid 50s for the Panhandle. And for highs tomorrow, 20s to mid 30s up there north of the mountains, and south of the range, upper 40s to near 50 to lower 60s here in the Susitna Valley. And it looks like that'll extend down to Kodiak Island. More sunshine tomorrow afternoon, upper 50s to lower 60s for the southeast coast. And flying weather, a lot of IFR as that front now pushes across the Panhandle there and extending still back into the southeast interior, mostly on the east side and the southern slopes of the Wrangell Mountains. Becoming VFR, Cook Inlet, still some IFR here up along the Alaska Range. Big bunch of IFR up over the northeast interior and back out to the west. And then for tomorrow afternoon, still looking at a fair amount of IFR in the east central interior of the state, but again, south of the mountains, VFR conditions extending down to Kodiak, back into Bristol Bay, and IFR becoming a little more prevalent now over the southern southeast coast as things improve back to the north, and the Bering Sea, of course, IFR spreading eastward with that next front. For passes, Anatuvik, like today, IFR, same forecast for Adigan, and Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR at times. Rainy looks marginal, as well as windy. Isabel, marginal VFR. Mentasta, marginal at times. Tanita, VFR. Portage, marginal VFR early, becoming VFR by mid-morning. Lake Clark, or Chilkoot and White, IFR, probably improving marginal VFR in the afternoon. And the freezing levels at the surface here down to the Brooks Range late tonight, early tomorrow, and then 2,000 feet just south of there. Then it slopes up to about 6,000 feet here toward the Susitna Valley down to the Aleutian Range, and 8 to 12,000 feet there across the southeast coast. Out to the west, about the same pattern there, 6 to 10,000 feet across the southern Bering Sea. Icing, areas of rime here, big area up here over the central and eastern interior areas now, about the Alaska Range northward toward the eastern Arctic coast, above about 3,000 feet, and then also here across the southeast coast above about 9,000 feet, areas of rime icing, possibly mixed back here to the west. Icing free over southern Alaska on out into the Bering Sea, and then some more icing coming in with the front as it slides into the eastern Aleutians. And the jet stream looks something like this for tomorrow. Still a trough axis right through here moving through, so generally a west to east flow. A little more northwest here, up to 100 knots there over the western interior areas, and then the next storm out here to the west, and a much stronger jet riding the south side of that with high pressure building over the eastern Bering. 9,000 feet, broad trough right through here, southwest and northeast, right into the southeast coast tomorrow. 25 to 30 knots. Opposite flow up here from the Arctic coast into the Bering Strait, 25 to 35 knots, diminishing around St. Lawrence Island, and then more wind with this system south, 25 to 40 knots, central, shifting to the eastern Aleutians, southeast 40 to 50 knots, strongest winds west of the Pribilofs, coming back around to 30 toward the Komodorskis. In at 3,000, southeast 40 knots on Alaska, right up toward the Pribilofs, dropping back to about 30 St. Matthew Island, and low pressure over the west central Aleutians, lighter winds there, west southwest 25 to 30 in across the Panhandle, and kind of breezy along the central interior there, 15 to 25 or so, northeast 25 to 35 there across the western Brooks Range, on down across the western Seward Peninsula to the Bering Strait. And as far as turbulence goes, isolated or light to occasional moderate chop there in the turquoise area from roughly, say, Cold Bay out to Nikolsky, Pribilofs below about 5,000 feet. Also up here, western Brooks Range, Kivalina back towards Point Hope. Occasional moderate below 5,000 feet there with lighter turbulence through the Bering Strait. And then still with those south winds, occasional moderate chop there for the northern southeast coast, and turbulence free here through the central interior. And after hangar flying, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts. Good evening, I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media, welcome to Hangar Flying. Our guest this evening is Lieutenant Colonel Linda Thurov. Linda is an incredibly talented young woman with a very important job at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. She graduated from Notre Dame and ROTC. Early on in her Air Force career, she flew the T-6 and then the C-21, which is an Air Force executive jet. Most of Linda's flying in the Air Force was in the C-17, Globemaster II. But she also had a very interesting job in international affairs. In that job, she traveled around Africa to Morocco, Jordan, and other exotic places. Linda, welcome to the show, and thanks for your service.
Thanks for having me, Harry.
Let's start with a fun question. What's it like flying the C-17 around?
So much fun. You wake up one day and your home station, say here at JBER, you take off, the next thing you know you're in Japan. Take off the next day, you're in Hawaii. From there, you could be in Bahrain to Germany, and coming back over the US, back to JBER, and before you know it, within a week, you've gone the whole way around the world. It really shrinks the world down for you, flying the C-17 all around the world.
Fun airplane to fly?
So much fun, yes. It was built from the ground up as simply a military transport aircraft. So it can do amazing things. Tactical flying, it can fly into 3,000-foot dirt runways in the middle of nowhere. Air refueling, it's great. It's a great aircraft to fly.
Wow. I did a little bit of air refueling in my career, but I got to tell you, that's fairly challenging. Is it pretty challenging in the C-17?
It is challenging, and I know when they're developing the C-17, they had to put some extra systems on it to make it more stable in the air refueling envelope. But with all the practice we get through the training is great that they provide at Altus, and so the crews do get the training, and in the simulator too, where...
Oh, you can do it in the simulator?
Yeah, oh yeah. We can do air refueling in the simulator too.
Well, my hat's off to you.
Thank you. So when you're out there on the real world and you're in the mission, you have to get the gas. Pilots are able to do it, no problem.
What's the longest mission you could fly with air refueling? I mean, is it a crew rest thing?
It probably would come down to a crew rest thing. I'm trying to think, in my memory, the longest one I heard of was 18 hours, double air refueling. Just take off, air refuel once, air refuel a second time before you actually go and land. Wow. But it does come down to a crew duty limitation, yes.
Well, there's so many questions I want to ask you, but that's fascinating. What a beautiful airplane when you see it flying. Let's talk about your current job.
Yes, sir.
What is it, and what do you do?
I'm the third wing chief of safety. My job is to prevent future mishaps within the third wing and at Elmendorf. On my crew, my team, I have three flight safety officers, three weapon safety managers, and 2 physiologists, so human factors analysis. What we do, we look at the programs we have at Third Wing. We look at the policies. Do we need to set more safety policies for the wing? Do we need to interpret higher headquarters safety policies? What risks should we be out there managing? Promotion and education, and then assurance as well. Going out there doing inspections of the different units, ensuring they're complying with the safety regulations.
Wow. So I guess the proof is in the pudding, and from a historical standpoint, I think I read that the accident rate in World War II was 44 per 100,000 hours. And I got to remember, Linda, in my career, some 20 or 25 years ago, in the fighter community anyway, it was right around 5 to 6%. And I think you told me the Class A, which is serious accident, rate right now in the Air Force is how much?
1%, yes. So Class A, either at least $2 million worth of damage, loss of life. We're looking at 1 per 100,000 hours.
Wow. So that's the success of it, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Of course, the quest is always for 0.
Right.
But I would, yes, the continual down slope is always a success story.
And looking at the aircraft you have at J-Bear, the F-22, pretty doggone good record.
Yes.
One fatality a few years ago back up in the range, and one C-17.
Yes.
That's pretty good, though.
That is.
So, what do you think the reasons for that dramatic improvement over the years?
Well, I think, at least in my time in the Air Force, the Air Force has taken a solid look at safety. We have the Safety Center, and they do a lot of trend analysis. Over the past 3 months, I've really dug deep into see what they analyze, what they're looking at. And just for the C-17 community, over the past 10 to 15 years, with the systems, the computer system we have on board now, they can really dig in and download data from flights and analyze trends across all airframes. So we can look at the C-17 community writ large, the KC-135 community writ large, and they can look and be like, they can drill down to approaches and be like, across the C-17 community, 2% of all approaches are flown slow, below approach speed. 10% are...
I'm going to have to interrupt
Okay.
you. I've run out of time. That's probably my fault. Here's what I want to do. Can I get you on a couple more times?
Of course.
Because I want you, let's pick it up right there.
Okay.
And then I want to really talk about crew rest, because you've got
Yes.
some very good ideas on crew rest I think people will appreciate.
All right.
Thank you for being on the program tonight.
problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. Tune in next time. Linda will be back on, and in the meantime, fly safe.
Today's graphic shows ice about 4 miles west of Barrow out here in this 6 to 10/10 concentration. Blue area here is mostly open water, less than 1/10 of an inch, and really it's just going to be moving around with whatever direction the wind blows, as it has been for the last several days for the next 4 or 5 days. Moving on to southeast coast here, west-southwest 15 to 20 down there, and southwesterlies at 20 knots. Seas along the entire coast running 10 to 11 feet. Lynn Canal, south winds 30 knots, 6-foot seas, small craft advisories for Stevens Passage with those south winds, and Clarence Strait southeast at 20. Then on Wednesday, those go southerly at about 15 knots here through the central and southern inside waters. Lynn Canal coming down to 20 knots, and then southerlies at 20 here along most of the coastline with 7-foot seas, a little more southeasterly there up to the north. And for Prince William Sound, light winds tomorrow, seas 2 feet or less, southwesterlies for Cook Inlet, 20 to 25 knots, strongest south of the Forelands. Small craft advisories here for Kamishak Bay, west winds 30 knots across the Barrens, and also out across the North Gulf Coast with 11-foot seas. Lighter winds here on the east side of Kodiak Island at about 15, southwest 20 or so for Shelikof Strait, with those seas running right around 5 feet. And then with that next system approaching, the winds swing around here. South 20 there for Kodiak. Small craft advisories there for the Barren Islands turn easterly at 25 knots into Kamishak Bay. East winds 20 for the Shelikof Strait area, and east-northeast 10 to 15 for Cook Inlet. Now the winds Prince William Sound coming up to about 20 knots. Southeast 20 for the North Gulf Coast. And the peninsula, the Bristol Bay to start with. Light west winds tomorrow for the Alaska Peninsula, small craft advisory, southeasterlies 25 knots, and also lighter winds over here towards Sitkinak. Then for Wednesday, south 25 knots, Sitkinak to Castle Cape. And then for the Alaska Peninsula, still small craft advisories, south to southwest at 25. And some good southeasterlies at 25 knots there, pushing into Bristol Bay, seas at about 5 feet. Fox Islands tomorrow, eastern Aleutians. You've got southeast gales here, diminishing back behind the front as it pushes eastward, but 35 to 40 knots in advance of it. Then small craft advisories for Adak and Atka for south-southeasterlies, and north to northwest, 20 to 25 there from Adak out to Shemya. And for Wednesday, back into the small craft advisories here for the western Aleutians from the north and northwest. Seas 13 to 14 feet. Seas pretty high here on the south side of the Aleutians, 18 to 19 feet with southwesterlies at 25 to 30 knots there, extending all the way up here toward the Fox Islands. Lighter on the Bering Sea side, south to southeast at 20, and about 25 knots here north of Adak and Atka. And along the southwest coast, east-northeasterlies, 15 knots, but the Pribilofts increasing to 30 knots, seas building to 10 feet. Small craft advisories, St. Matthew Island and St. Lawrence Island, north 25. And then those pick up a little bit on Wednesday to about 30 knots and become a little more northeasterly. Gales now over the northern Bering Sea are from St. Matthew Island areas and northeast 30, north of Nunivak Island, east 30 south of there, and no change for the Pribilofts. Arctic coast, small craft advisories on the east side, east-northeast 25. Small craft advisories on the west side there, northeasterlies 25 to 30 knots, becoming more northerly. And then for Wednesday, lighter winds now, Wales to Cape Thompson, still 25 knots, but 10 to 15 here on the west coast. Still about, that actually should be 15, not 25. And so lighter winds there for the eastern coast. And for tonight, again, that front pushing eastward. So again, where the heavy rain's going on now, that'll be diminishing, changing to showers. Winds continue to drop off through the windier areas here as that front pushes eastward. And for the, of course, it's going to be quite windy here over northern Lynn Canal, Skagway. Actually, a high wind warning out for tonight, gusts of 60 miles an hour. Rain heavy at times, less to the south. Snow with winter storm warning out for the Brooks Range for tonight and tomorrow. Look for 4 to 7 inches. The fall by tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening. Better conditions here with higher pressure pushing in toward the coast. The next front there, gale force winds and rain pushing into the central Aleutians. That moves to the eastern Aleutians tomorrow with some rain reaching the Alaska Peninsula. Mostly sunny now. South central Alaska, Kodiak Island, rain up to the north, and rain pushes into the southern southeast coast, and that front kind of hangs up there. And looks like another batch will slip in during the afternoon, but dry to the north. More rain into southern Alaska, dry through the interior, rain and snow up to the north. That's a look at Alaska weather for this evening. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 5.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Support comes from the University of Alaska College Savings Plan, helping you and your child save for college every step of the way, from diapers to diploma. More information at uacollegesavings.com.
My job is to find a way to say something really essential so that you come out of your car or you take out your earphones and you know a little bit more about what's happening around you. Welcome to Alaska Edition. I'm your host, Zachariah Hughes. My favorite part of my job is